Bisikletle tanışmam pek çok insan gibi çocukluk yıllarıma dayanıyor. 9 yaşındaydım. Okul yaz tatiline girdi ve ben de hayalini kurduğum karne hediyeme kavuştum. 90'lı yıllardı. Çanakkale küçük, konforlu bir sahil kenti. Bir çocuk için bu şehrin sokaklarında, kordonunda, parklarında pedallamak keyiflerin en keyiflisi. Kent de bu özgürlüğe olanak sağlıyor. Yüzmeye, dondurma yemeye, arkadaşların evlerine, oyun oynamaya, maç yapmaya, bakkala, çeşmeye, akla gelen her yere, her deliğe bıkmadan, usanmadan pedal çevirmek. Sokakta nefes almak. Yaşadığı yer ile ilişki kuran, çevresini tanıyan ve keşfeden bir çocuğun merakından söz ediyorum. Ve pek çoğunuzun da benzer hatıraları olduğunu düşünüyorum. Peki sonra ne oldu? Bu oldu. Sonra duydum ki dünyanın bazı yerlerinde bu duruma müsaade etmeyen, yaşadığı kente sahip çıkan ve kısa mesafeli şehir içi ulaşımlarını bisiklet ile sağlayan milyonlarca insan varmış. Nasıl oluyor da oluyor diye sormak üzere çocukluk arkadaşımı da yanıma alıp Amsterdam'a gittim. İzleyecekleriniz oradaki kentlilerin yaşadıkları yere ve özellikle bisikletli yaşama yaklaşımları üzerine bir çalışma. Artık susuyorum. Sözü Amsterdamlılara bırakıyorum.
Dış ülkeden gelen arkadaşlar ilk geldiklerini diyor herkese bisikletle gidiyor. Arabası yok mu diye soruyorlar. Diyorum ya tamam herkes arabası vardır ama yine de bisikletle gider. Hollanda'nın bisikletle gider. Neden? Sabahları o hareketi yapmak istiyor. Kısa bir yerde arabayla neye gideyim?
In a lot of countries, bikes are seen for that's the way for poor people to get around, and that the rich people drive cars. But in Holland, everybody has a bike. Everybody cycles. So it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. I mean, the prime minister cycles, the princess who is going to be the queen cycles, the queen herself cycles.
If you're living in a city where a lot of people ride on bikes, you do it as well.
Yeah, get affected.
Yeah, you feel it's more greener, it's better for the environment.
Yeah, just a lovely situation for people to live in. In a city like Amsterdam, you have 1 million people living in this small space, and kids can play on the street. It's safe and enjoyable, and neighbors meet each other heading each way along the street because they're on bicycles. They just stop and they talk.
Has cycling been as good as it is now? Yeah, 100 years ago, or 70 years ago. It is mainly, the Netherlands or Amsterdam, they went down the same road after the Second World War as any other country. The car became a popular and achievable thing for many people. So cities and the whole countries had to make way for the cars. So they built infrastructure for the cars. And basically, a person on a bike was seen as old-fashioned. And so up until the 70s, we went down the same road as London or New York or anywhere else. So bikes were marginalized, and a lot of people got killed in traffic.
From the 1950s, the Netherlands got more and more rich, and they got more cars. And this you could see in the streets of the cities, because the streets got full with cars. This was becoming more and more of a problem, because the streets in the city were not built for cars. The streets were quite narrow, so you don't have the place for all the cars to park, and you don't have the place for all the cars on the street. You got traffic jams, you got congestion, you got noise of the cars, pollution of the cars, and one thing that was very important was you got a lot of road unsafety with the cars. And in the 1970s, people were more and more fed up with the problems.
The 1970s, oil crisis,
dollar crisis, environmental crisis, turmoil in the world and in the Netherlands. But Dutch citizens rise to the occasion, organize themselves, and collectively and loudly say, enough is enough.
And there were basically two sides of it. One side that said we need to make bigger streets, wider streets, to make more place for the cars, and then you can get more flow, you get less congestion, and you can make more safety. The other ones were saying, no, we don't want to make these big streets because you get even more cars, and where will you leave them? And also, to make these big streets in a city like Amsterdam, you need to break down houses, and that is or you have to fill in canals, and both were a problem. In 1974, they discussed in the city council about this plan for making the inner city ring for the cars, 6-lane street for the cars. And one part said we need to make this ring, and the other part said we don't want it because it only brings us more cars and more unsafety. It was discussed in the city council, and the vote was there, and 23 were against the plan and 22 were in favor of the plan. So this was, the plan was abandoned, but it was a very close call.
And a lot of people have forgotten the history of how we had to fight back to reclaim the streets and make cycling one of the main priorities again.
This is my favorite spot in Amsterdam, the Magere Brug, the skinny bridge. I pass this bridge every day, so I always look over the water. And this is a nice bridge because there are no cars allowed, only pedestrians and cyclists.
Making a new profile in the street in the 1980s, the space that was taken away from the cars was given to the public transport and to the bicycles. The bicycles got more safety, the public transport got more speed, more velocity. Before, this is in the 1980s, it used to be 2 ways for cars. Because you take out 1 lane for the cars, you get fewer cars, so it's safer for the bikes, and it's more it's faster for the public transport because they have the free lane. Where to go with all the cars? Well, some of the cars just disappeared because they had a good alternative. They were taken to the other street, which is on the other side of the buildings here, and they get more flow for the cars on that street. So this one is for the public transport and the bicycles, the other one is prominent for the cars.
It gives a feeling of equality. We're all the same, we're all on bikes. And of course it's also good because we have quite some exercise. For most people that they cycle every day an hour or half an hour at least. And we don't think about it being sports, but in the end it is because we do move for quite a while.
I love cycling. It's a really fast and healthy experience. And it takes you much faster to where you want to go than if you want to take a car or something.
Okay, this is one of the new connections that was built in the 1980s. This bridge was built to make a good connection from the city center inner city ring towards the southwest of the city through the park. And then you have a route without any traffic lights towards the west of the city, which is very comfortable and very pleasant going through the park. And I think many people that before came by public transport or by car to the city center discovered this route for bicycles, and then they said, okay, now I'm really fast and it's a very pleasant route, so the bike is a good alternative now. And the Bicycle Network of Amsterdam is a policy paper which says these routes are important for cyclists to connect all the places where people live and the places where people want to go. And if you have a good network of that, then people have a good way to go by bicycle. And the network has some quality requirements. It needs to be safe, it needs to be direct, it needs to be comfortable, and it needs to be pleasant. So if you have as many as possible routes which are good for cyclists, and the most essentials you do first, you can realize a good network and a good city for cyclists. And to get money, for instance, to make these bridges. Amsterdam has a mobility fund. The people that go to the city and want to park their car in the city, they have to pay. All the money that comes into those parking incomes, they go to the mobility fund, and from the mobility fund you can pay for the facilities you want for bicycles, but also for public transport. Let's say facilities for alternatives for the cars.
I think it's possible to cycle everywhere, but you do need a government that really makes the decision that cycling is important, and they are actually the ones that have to make it safe. It doesn't get safer by wearing helmets or anything. It only gets safe if you have the good infrastructure and if you make the bike important. If you want to, you can make every city bicycle friendly.
I always say to people who come here and ask me about it, I always say this city is set up, the bicycle infrastructure is set up, if you make a mistake, you don't instantly get killed like anywhere else. In London, you feel like you're being chased like a rat, you know? It's really a rat race in London. And if you make one slight mistake, you're gone. So, well, roughly said. And here, it's much more forgiving.
And because you're not locked up in cars, you have more contact with people on the street. So you might, I think that's really nice.
Bicycle-friendly city thrives more. Shops thrive more. The livability goes up. All those things, the values of life, of enjoying life, of living a life well pursued, those are factors that you don't get with a car. The only thing is instant personal gratification while the road is open and you can actually drive, but anything else, it's a nuisance. One thing I can say about car companies is basically what they're doing with marketing is very smart. They're selling a product that doesn't give you liberty, it only gives you grief. Basically, it makes you fat, it costs a lot of money, and you're always in gridlock. And more people drive a car, the more problems you get. But they're selling it in a way that it resembles freedom, and that you have some personality with it.
Cities which have still growing numbers of cars, they have difficulties. And I think that may be happening in Turkey. And it's understandable that they want to have cars as well, but it would be a pity to have all the cities taken over by cars. So it's important to, as citizens of the cities, citizens of the country, to not get all the space taken away by the cars, because that's not good for cities.